August is National Make a Will Month, a time to make sure to create or update your will and make sure that your loved ones are protected. Today, we're joined by Thedora Vaporis with Tuggle Duggins P.A. to explain what actions families really do need to know. I think, a lot of people think, well, if something happens to me, well, my spouse and my kids get everything. What's the big deal?
Right. Well, I think you and I've talked about the fact that that's really not the way that the law sets things out. It depends on who else is around in your family. If you have parents and no children, your parents and your spouse might share. If you have a spouse and children, then your spouse and your children share. That may not be what you intend. So it's a good idea to have a will drafted that sets out what you want. And I'm going to go one step further, encourage people to see a lawyer and not try to do it themselves, because we see a lot of errors made when people do it themselves. So I'd like to have people be counseled and do it appropriately. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated, but they should do it correctly.
They should do it correctly. I know a lot of folks say, well, I've already had a talk with my cousin, my aunt, my whatever. They're going to take care of the kids if anything were to happen.
Yeah. Well, you want to name your guardian. The last thing in the world you want is different factions of the family fighting over that. And in terms of money, I hear a lot of people say, well, I left everything to my sister and she'll take care of my kids. Well, I can tell you in my experience, sometimes sister decides that really that money is hers and doesn't take care of your kids. Nobody believes it will happen in their family. But I can tell you over and over again, we see that it does. So better off do a will, set up a children's trust in it, put your sister in charge of it if you have faith in her, but set up the parameters so that she can't choose to keep money for herself.
Yeah, the will just basically like spells out what you exactly want done.
Right. But it also makes it binding so that people have a right of action. They can enforce it rather than just suggesting it. That's why we don't want to leave lists laying around the house of what we want. We want to put it in an official document, have it witnessed and notarized as is statutorily required in North Carolina, and just do it right.
I think people hear words like probate and things like that, and they wonder, can I get around probate by having a will or a trust? What's the deal with all that?
Yeah, well, you can get around probate by having a trust. And there's some other ways you can get around probate if your estate is particularly simple, just with beneficiary designations, so that things pass outside of probate and go directly on death. But if you have minor children or special needs children, then you don't want to do that. You really do want to have either a will that sets up a trust or a living trust that bypasses probate altogether. And a living trust will allow you to put your assets in the trust or make the trust the beneficiary of your assets, thereby bypassing probate, bypassing the court, but still setting parameters and appointing a person in charge to handle it.
For people who
That
are
would be
like,
your
okay, I've
trustee.
never even thought about this. If I go see a lawyer or whatever, what should I expect? What should I expect to have to bring? What should I expect for time? What should I expect maybe even for money?
Right. Well, you can do a whole lot in a 1 hour consultation. And you go and you have your list of the people you want to benefit, the organizations you want to benefit, if maybe you want to do any charitable gifts, and what the parameters, think in advance about the parameters that you might want. But let the lawyer guide you with suggestions and use all of their years of advice, all of their years, excuse me, of experience to give you advice on how to best set it up. I think that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. And so people can, and I think people get really weird about this. They know that this person is providing a service for a certain amount of money, but I think a lot of times they don't want to ask, well, how much is a will?
Right. Well, oftentimes you can't really tell them because it just depends on how complex it is. But you also can call around. Different lawyers have different rates, so it's not really something I can say on the air that it's going to cost you X. But I think that if it's very simple, the price will probably reflect that, and if it's more complicated, the price will probably reflect that as well. And if your situation is more complicated, then you want it done, um, you know, within those parameters.
But I like what you said, you can call around. It's not like they've never gotten that question before.
No, my assistant fields that question on a daily basis, and some people say, it's not within their realm, And sometimes we can send them somewhere else if it's just a different situation and we think there might be somebody better suited for them. But most lawyers I think in Greensboro are probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I just want to make people at home feel empowered to ask that question. It's not like you're not allowed to ask that question. It is part of the whole process.
Absolutely. And sometimes a consultation will be free with some attorneys. Some will charge for a consultation, which is not an unreasonable thing. But after that 1 hour, they'll be able to give you a really good estimate of what it'll cost. And then you can make a decision to go forward or not. But you'll also have learned a lot in that hour.
Yeah, I bet, for sure. Thank you. We've learned a lot in the last 5 minutes, so thank you for your time and your expertise. This is going to be in the 2 wants to know section of our website so that you can send it to somebody else if they've got questions about wills as well.